Konnichiwa minasan. O genki desu ka? Welcome to my channel. Let's learn Japanese with Eric. If you would like to learn Japanese for work, travel, or simply personal interest, please subscribe to my channel and watch the videos in chronological order. All lessons are written in both English and Japanese, so if you read Japanese, you can follow along reading the hiragana alphabet. If you haven't learned the hiragana yet, you can learn them all in one afternoon by going through lessons 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, you're perfectly fine following along using the English transliteration. So let's begin. Hajimemashou. In the previous lessons, lessons 22 and 23, we studied the 13 most commonly used particles in the Japanese language and their multiple uses. In this lesson, we will practice using them by deconstructing English sentences into their elements and attaching the correct particle for each one. And by doing so, you get a firm grasp of how Japanese sentences are formed. If you haven't gone through lessons 22 and 23 yet, please stop and do those first. Otherwise, let's begin. A quick review. The 13 most common Japanese particles we studied were wa, ga, ka, mo, no, ni, e, de, wo, to, ya, kara, and made. Let's see how much of the functions of these particles you remember. I have the 13 particles on top. I'll say the function, and you tell me which particle it is. Object of a verbal adjective, such as suki, kirai, jozu, heta, tokui, or nigate. Ga. Entry. Ni. Possession. No. Direction. Ni. Indirect object for whom something is done. Ni. Subject of a subordinate clause. Ga. Of the. No. Per or each. Ni. But when this particle is put after a verb, ga. Topic. Wa. Indicates the object of certain verbs, such as to be able or dekiru, or to understand or wakaru. Ga. Destination. Ni. So how did you do? Here's more coming in the next slide. Location of an action. De. From. Kara. Up to. Made. And etc. Ya. Instrument. De. Origin. Kara. Because when put after a verb. Kara. Direct object. Wo. Starting point. Kara. Passage. Wo. Partial list. Ya. Answers what of the verb. Wo. Location of a thing or person. Ni. Question. Ka. Contrast. Wa. Specific time. Ni. Or. Ka. Subject or the doer of the action. Ga. Whether or, either or. Ka. Also. Mo. Apposition or people's titles. No. To become. Ni. Even. Mo. Direction. E or ni. With. To. Scope. De. Until. Made. Source. Kara. Method. De. Complete listing. To. Time limit. De. Quotation. To, from. Kara, material or what something is made of. De, and. To. It's very important that you have most, if not all of these functions pinned down. In the next slides, we will deconstruct 20 sentences into their elements, and once we do so, attach the correct particle to each one. You may need pen and paper to do this, or you can do it mentally if you can. If you need time to figure out why a certain particle is used, you can always pause the video and review, or shoot me a question in the comments section. As a reminder about Japanese sentence structure, the verb is always at the end, and the order of everything else is not strict, as long as the correct particle is used. There is, however, a preferred word order that we try to follow. Our first sentence is, I wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow. The elements are tomorrow, I, a.m., 7 o'clock, and the verb wake up. Tomorrow is a relative time expression, so it does not need a particle. I can be the topic of the whole conversation, and in simple declarative sentences with no context, this would be the case, so it takes the topic particle wa. AM is another relative time expression, so it does not take any particle. However, it has to come before 7 o'clock, as per Japanese sentence convention. 7 o'clock is a specific time expression, so it takes the particle ni. Filling in for Japanese vocabulary, we say, Ashita, watashi wa gozen 7時に起きます。Ashita, watashi wa gozen 7時に起きます。Please note that these are not the only particle combination that is correct. We can choose to make tomorrow the topic. Let's talk about tomorrow. Therefore, it takes the particle wa. Then I, the doer of the action, takes the subject particle ga. AM does not take a particle, and 7 o'clock still takes the particle ni for specific time. So we say, 明日は私が午前7時に起きます。明日は私が午前7時に起きます。We can also choose to express the time 7 o'clock a.m. as part of tomorrow. Tomorrow takes the particle no. AM does not take any, being a relative time expression, and 7 o'clock takes the particle ni for specific time, the 7 a.m. of tomorrow. And I either becomes the subject taking the particle ga, or it becomes the topic taking the particle wa. And in Japanese, 明日の午前7時に私が or は起きます。明日の午前7時に私が or は起きます。The point here is that there are often several combinations of particles that could be used without changing the meaning of the sentence, and some of these requires a different way of thinking when it comes to using particles. In the next sentences, we will tackle only the most obvious choices. If your answer is different from mine, you can shoot me a question in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to respond. Next sentence. He practices Japanese at the center on Mondays. The elements are he, Mondays, center, Japanese, and the verb practices. He can be the topic of the sentence, so it takes the particle wa. It can also take ga as the subject of the sentence. Mondays is a specific time expression, so it takes the particle ni. Center is the location of the action, so it takes de, practice where, at the center. And Japanese is the direct object, practices what? Japanese. So it takes the direct object particle wo. In Japanese, 彼は毎月曜日にセンターで日本語を練習します。彼は毎月曜日にセンターで日本語を練習します。He practices Japanese at the center on Mondays. Next sentence. Please wash your face with soap and water. The elements are soap, water, you, face, and the verb please wash. Soap takes the particle to for and. Water takes the particle de for instrument. What do you use to wash your face? Soap and water. Soap to water de. You takes the particle no for you no face or your face. And face takes the direct object particle wo. please wash what? Your face. Your no face wo. And in Japanese, we say, 石鹸と水であなたの顔を洗ってください。石鹸と水であなたの顔を洗ってください。あなたの is unnecessary and you can just say 石鹸と水で顔を洗ってください。Next sentence, who wants to go to Japan? The elements are who, Japan, and the verb wants to go. Who takes the particle ga? When you want to find out who did what, who always takes ga because you want to be specific as to who did the action. No other possibilities here. Who can never take the topic particle wa. Japan takes the direction or destination particle ni or e. And since this is a question, the sentence ends with a question particle ka. In Japanese, we say, 誰が日本に行きたいですか? Or 誰が日本へ行きたいですか? Who wants to go to Japan? Next sentence, Mary works at the post office from Monday to Friday. The elements are Mary, Monday, Friday, post office, and the verb works. Mary can take the topic particle wa, as well as the subject particle ga. Monday takes the particle kara for from, and Friday takes the particle made to mean up to. And post office takes the particle de for location of the verb, works where? The post office. And in Japanese, we say, Miyari ga getsuyobi kara kinyobi made yubin kyoku de hataraku, or Miyari wa getsuyobi kara kinyobi made yubin kyoku de hataraku. Mary works at the post office from Monday to Friday. So, how are you doing so far? Are you getting a good feel of how these Japanese particles work? Next sentence, the cat ran across the street. The elements are the cat, street, and the verb ran across. The cat can take the topic particle wa or the subject particle ga. Since the verb ran across is a verb of passage, the street, the location where the action occurs, takes the passage particle wo. And in Japanese, 猫は道を走りました。猫は道を走りました。The cat ran across the street. Next sentence, because Jiro goes to school by bus, Mary did not buy a car. The elements are Jiro, bus, school, the verb goes. Up to here is the subordinate clause. Then for the main clause, we have the elements Mary, car, and the verb did not buy. Jiro is the subject of the subordinate clause, so it takes the particle ga. Bus is the method of going, so it takes the particle de. School is the destination, so it takes the particle ni or e. And the verb goes takes the particle kara to indicate reason, the reason why Mary did not buy a car. Mary, the subject of the main clause, now takes the topic particle wa. And car takes the direct object particle wo. Did not buy what? A car. Car wo. And in Japanese we say, Jiro ga basu de gakkou ni iku kara, Miyari wa kuruma wo kawanakatta. Jiro ga basu de gakkou ni iku kara, Miyari wa kuruma wo kawanakatta. Because Jiro goes to school by bus, Mary did not buy a car. Next sentence, I am in Toronto, but my heart is in Tokyo. The elements are I, Toronto, am, my, heart, Tokyo, and the verb is in. In the sentence, we have a contrast for I, which exists in Toronto, and heart, which exists in Tokyo. So these two elements take the contrast particle wa. Toronto takes the particle ni for the location of existence of a person, and Tokyo also takes the particle ni for the location of existence of a thing. The verb am takes the particle ga to indicate but, and my takes the particle no to indicate possession, my heart. And in Japanese we say, 僕はトロントにいますが、僕の心は 東京にあります。僕はトロントにいますが、僕の心は東京にあります。I'm in Toronto, but my heart is in Tokyo. Next sentence, Mom, Dad, and I ate sushi, tempura, etc. for dinner. The elements are Mom, Dad, I, dinner, sushi, tempura, and the verb ate. Mom and Dad both take the particle to indicate and. Together with I, it's a complete listing of people who ate. Then I takes the particle ga. It can also take the topic particle wa, depending on the situation. Dinner takes the particle ni, as the specific time of the action. Now, since there were other foods besides those mentioned that the three of us ate, then sushi takes the partial listing particle ya. And tempura, the last food mentioned, takes the direct object particle wo. Ate what? Sushi and tempura, among other things. And in Japanese, we say, お母さんとお父さんと私が晩ご飯に寿司や天ぷらを食べた。お母さんとお父さんと私が晩ご飯に寿司や天ぷらを食べた。Mom, Dad, and I ate sushi, tempura, etc. at dinner. Next sentence, Mom also bought her a cake from Uncle Tetsu. The elements are Mom, her, Uncle Tetsu, cake, and the verb bought. Mom takes the particle mo to indicate also. Besides someone else, Mom also bought a cake from Uncle Tetsu. Her takes the particle ni to indicate indirect object, bought for whom? For her. And Uncle Tetsu takes the particle no to indicate of the cake of Uncle Tetsu, and cake takes the particle wo to indicate direct object, bought what? The cake. And in Japanese, お母さんも彼女に鉄おじさんのケーキを買ってやった。お母さんも彼女に鉄おじさんのケーキを買ってやった。Mom also bought her a cake from Uncle Tetsu. Uncle Tetsu can also take the double particle kara, meaning from, and no, meaning of the. Uncle Tetsu kara no keiki. The cake of the from Uncle Tetsu. And in Japanese, お母さんも彼女に鉄おじさんからのケーキを買ってやった。Next sentence, I think we can go to Ginza in 5 minutes by taxi. The elements are Ginza, taxi, 5 minutes, and the verbs can go and think. Ginza is the destination or direction of going, so it can take the particle ni and e. We can also use made to indicate final destination. Let's use made here. Taxi takes the particle de to indicate the method of going. And 5 minutes also takes the particle de to indicate time limit. Can go takes the particle to indicate that the whole thing is a quote. Think is a verb that signals a quote. And in Japanese we say, 銀座まで5分でタクシーで行けると思います。銀座まで5分でタクシーで行けると思います。I think we can go to Ginza in 5 minutes by taxi. Next sentence, the walls of the inn are made of paper. Elements, inn, wall, paper, are made of. Walls of the inn, so inn takes the particle no for of the. Wall can take the topic particle wa. It can also take ga. And paper takes the particle de to indicate material. In Japanese, 旅館の壁は紙でできています。旅館の壁は紙でできています。The walls of the inn are made of paper. Next sentence, I don't know whether or not it'll snow. The elements are snow, and in Japanese we use the verb to fall. So the element fall, and the verb don't know. Snow takes the subject particle ga because it's the one that falls from the sky. And the verb to fall takes the whether or not construction of ka do ka. So in Japanese we say, 雪が降るかどうかわかりません。 Yuki ga furu ka douka wakarimasen. We use the verb wakarimasen to indicate I have no idea, because no one really is 100% sure of nature. I have no idea whether it'll snow or not. Next sentence, I like Spain. I understand Spanish. The elements of the first sentence are Spain and like. The second sentence, you have Spanish and understand. Spain takes the particle ga to indicate the object of the verbal adjective like, and Spanish takes the particle ga to indicate the object of the verb to understand. And in Japanese, Spain ga suki desu. Spaingo ga wakarimasu. Spain ga suki desu. Spaingo ga wakarimasu. Meaning, I like Spain, I understand Spanish. Next sentence, our neighbor Kenji will become a doctor. The elements are neighbor, Kenji, doctor, and will become. Neighbor takes the particle no to indicate apposition or Kenji's title. Kenji takes the topic particle wa. It can also take the subject particle ga. And doctor takes the particle ni to indicate change, what Kenji will become. In Japanese, Tonari no Kenji-kun ga issha ni narimasu. Tonari no Kenji-kun ga issha ni narimasu. Next sentence, of all my friends, Kim is the most beautiful. The elements are friends, of all, Kim, and most beautiful. Of all my friends is the domain and takes the construction no naka de. So friends takes the particle no, and of all takes the particle de to indicate scope or domain. Kim takes the particle ga to indicate that it is Kim that is the most beautiful. And in Japanese, Tomodachi no naka de Kim ga ichiban kirei desu. Tomodachi no naka de Kim ga ichiban kirei desu. Of all my friends, Kim is the most beautiful. Next sentence, this room is cleaned once every week. Elements, this room, week, once, and is cleaned. This room takes the particle wa for topic. Week takes the particle ni to indicate the notion of per or each. This room is cleaned each week or per week. And once, which is the quantity, does not take any particle. In Japanese, この部屋は週に1回掃除します。この部屋は週に1回掃除します。Next sentence, the chef divided the butter into 4 portions. Elements, the chef, butter, 4 portions, and divided. The chef is the doer of the action, so it takes the particle ga. It can also be the topic and can take the particle wa. Butter is what the chef divides, so it takes the direct object particle wo. And after dividing the butter, it becomes 4 portions, so it takes the particle ni to indicate it is the result of change. In Japanese, シェフがバッターを4つに分けました。シェフがバッターを4つに分けました。Next sentence, our apples come from Akita or Yamagata. The elements are our, apples, Akita, Yamagata, and come from. Our takes the particle no to indicate possession. Apples takes the particle wa to indicate topic. Akita takes the particle ka to indicate or, and Yamagata takes the particle kara to indicate source or origin. And in Japanese, 私たちのリンゴは秋田か山形から来ています。私たちのリンゴは秋田か山形から来ています。Our apples come from Akita or Yamagata. And the last sentence, that woman even has or has as much as 10 cats. The elements are that woman, the quantity 10, cats, and the verb to exist. That woman takes the particle wa, and the quantity 10 takes the particle mo to mean even as much as, and cat takes the particle ga to mean it is what exists, and in Japanese, あの女は10匹も猫がいます。あの女は10匹も猫がいます。That woman even has as much as 10 cats, or simply, that woman has as much as 10 cats. To summarize, we learned how to apply the 13 most commonly used particles in the Japanese language to communicate meaningful sentences. We also learned how Japanese sentences are structured and put together by deconstructing them into elements and attaching to each element the appropriate particle. So this ends our exercise on particles. Hope as usual that you learned lots and had fun in the process. With particles out of the way, you're now ready to start learning basic verb conjugations in our next lesson. If you're serious about becoming fluent in Japanese, it's important to practice daily, learn grammar, and build up vocabulary. My whole course is designed to give you a strong basic foundation in the Japanese language that you can build solidly on. So please click like, share, or subscribe, and watch the next video in the series. Nihongo no benkyou ni ganbatte kudasai. じゃあ、またね。